And we have to bear witness to that. So if you have Psalms chapter 77, you can stand and honor God's word if you can, and if you're able. We're going to see a little bit about a dilemma. And the Bible said, I cried unto God with my voice, even unto God with my voice. And he gave ear unto me in the day of my trouble. I sought the Lord. My soul ran in the night and ceased not. My soul refused to be comforted. I remembered God and I was troubled. I complained and my spirit was overwhelmed. Selah. Thou holdest mine eyes waking. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. I have considered the ways of old, the years of ancient times. I call to remembrance my song in the night. I commune with my own heart, and my spirit make diligent search. Will the Lord cast forever? Will cast off forever? And will he be favorable no more? Is his mercy clean gone forever? Doth his promise fail forevermore? Y'all may be seated. Now here David, and I know David has got, Asaph wrote this song, but he's writing it about David and David's life. So he's basically seeing where David has come from. You know, sometimes it's harder. My son lost a good buddy of his, took a TV set and an Xbox game. I mean, the guy's graduating college. What does he need with an Xbox game? It's not the end of the world. But he gave it to his best friend. The best friend was going to keep both, and he pawned something off. Long story short, I think to myself, you lost an Xbox, let life, I'm the dad, and I feel like, well, you know, you gave it to the guy, you knew the guy was kind of shady, he called yourself a friend, you ought to know better, and you had enough room in the car, you could have squeezed it in there, and I get that you trusted him. But nevertheless, you trusted the wrong person, you gave it, he stole it, he pawned it off, and it's forever gone. Well, what are you going to do about it, Daddy? I'm just going to pray that God gives you the grace to survive without the Xbox. Seems reasonable. So unbeknownst, behind my back, Grandma, and I know it's Grandma's day, before I know it, he's calling back and there's a conspiracy going on behind my back about how to get the new Wi-Fi to work for his new game. And apparently he got it. Now see, there's lessons to be learned here. Okay, there's lessons to be learned here. We got to learn our key to success. And it starts with the Word of God. Our key to success. So here, he didn't come to me because he didn't feel like he was going to get compassion from the daddy. But he knew where he was going to get a little more compassion from the grandmother, especially when he, did whatever he did for that to get done. There's the dilemma here. The dilemma is, he said, I cried unto God with my voice. Now we can see he did a lot of I-ing. Church, I want to encourage us. We've got to be careful when we go I. It's always better to go they. It's always better for a Christian, It's always better for us to look at others and say, how can I serve them? How can I uplift them? How can I help them or do for them to encourage them in their walk, in their way? Here he's talking about, I cried unto God with my voice. I'm going to tell you, that's a good start. You want to cry to God? We got a God who cares. We got a God who listens. Amen. He cried out to God with his voice. Then he said he gave ear unto me. Of course God gave ear. Now I tell you, I'm not 100% giving ear to my son because I'm big on the final word. That's the end of it. What's left to discuss? I mean, there's certain times, certain things. I mean, look, Dad, my fishing pole broke. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Got duct tape. I don't think duct tape's going to work. I'll just throw it away then. He's like, really? I'm like, what's there to discuss? I'm like, burn it. Why burn it? He's like, this is really stressing me out. I'm like, when you burn it, your stress will go away with the smoke. What's there left to talk about? What's there left to talk about? But see, he said he gave ear unto me. Grandma gave more of an ear. And if you think Grandma gives an ear, you go to one of my kids and say, who's going to have to show more compassion, your daddy or Grandma? They're both going to say Grandma. And I tell you what, we got a God that shows more compassion than even her. Than even he. We got a God that shows. God said he gave ear unto me. He said, in the day of my trouble I sought the Lord. Well, that's the second thing he did good. Hey, if you're crying, seek the Lord. Seek after the Lord. I'm glad, it's not hard. I used to love playing hide and seek with my children. Not all my examples have to do with my children because they sit here and I don't want them thinking, oh, Dad, you're preaching about me all the time. But I remember when they were little, we'd go hide and seek, and I'm going to fetch him, and I'd go, are you ready? And we'd hear, yeah. And we'd search through the house, and I'd say, are you sure? And they'd go, yeah. And they didn't realize they were giving away their position. See, in the day of my trouble, I sought the Lord. Let me tell you, the Lord can be found. All we got to do is call upon Him. David said, I remembered God, and I was troubled, and I complained. And oh boy, we've got to watch out. If you're in here, let me tell you, we're all guilty of doing that. We have complained against God. We've had issues where we think, why? I mean, I can guarantee we went to Steve's house over there. They got a beautiful pool and a beautiful little setup out here. And the hot tub almost floated away. Like, boy, you got a hot tub. It's like, broke. I'm like, really, why? It's like, well, it floated. The flood they had, whatever. And I was like, there's reasons to complain. But let me tell you, and then I hate when I go to complaining mode and somebody tries to encourage me when I feel like venting. Because it's really not that I'm upset about what I'm complaining about. I just enjoy complaining because I'm in the flesh and it feels good just to complain. And you just want somebody there to listen to you complain. And it's not like I want you to fix it. I just want you to listen. I learned that after 10 years of marriage when my wife would get on me about something. I was just like, look, woman, lay it out. I'll tell you how to fix it. But that's not what she wanted. It took 10 years for me to recognize, aha, my wife doesn't want me to fix nothing. She just wants me to shut up, nod 7 times, that's God's number, it always works, and act like I care. You know why everybody's laughing? Because they know that's what they have to do to have success. I'm glad right here the Bible said he's complaining. But let me tell you something. If something's happening and you start complaining, it doesn't surprise me that in verse 4 happens. The Bible says, thou holdest my eyes waking. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. Let me tell you something. When we get discouraged about something, we go complain against God, trouble is sure to come. Now listen, nothing happens to you that God hadn't allowed to happen to you, good and bad. But whatever has happened to you, it is in God's perfect will if we let it and choose it to be so. So we can say, you know what? I feel like complaining. I'm crying. I'm seeking. I'm remembering God is good. But I'm now complaining because of all my trouble. So what does David do? He is so troubled, he cannot speak. And in verse 5 he said, I consider the days of old. Song in the night. Do you like singing in this house? I mean, he's got a song tonight. What are you talking about song tonight? Man, he's talking about a song in spirit, song in heart. There's a song that just makes you just want to dance for the Lord. When God is blessed in your life and you know, he said, I call to remembrance a song in the night. I commune in my own heart. Where did he commune? He communed in his heart. About what? About the things of God. He's basically meditating. He was troubled. He was complaining. He was remembering the goodness of God. And he said, I'm going to call to remembrance a song. I'm going to remember back in the days where I had a song in my skip. Have you ever heard of Skip to My Lou? That little dance that they did for happiness and celebrating life and celebrating the goodness and celebrating. It's like that old song, I Can't Help. No matter what mood you're in, that song comes on and goes, I'm walking on sunshine. Yeah. And don't you feel good? I don't care who you are, it just makes you want to go. Driving in the car, you just feel happy. It's just a happy song. It's an uplifting. Like that one song come out that was so popular in the 80s and it was so goofy, it drove me nuts. And the guy's like, don't worry, be happy. That guy made $14 million. I'm sure he was happy. To make a simple song like that. Happy. Don't worry, be happy. He made $1 million. Yeah. Over here it said, I'll commune in my own heart, my spirit with diligent search. See, this is a dilemma. He had a dilemma because he was hurt, he was heartbroken, he was crying, he was seeking after the Lord, he remembered the goodness of God, but yet he complained against it. When he complained, he fell into trouble. And once he got into trouble, he did the right thing and said, I'm going to call upon God and I am going to commune with him. He's going to commune in his spirit, commune in his own heart. Now he had doubts. Have you ever had doubts? Oh, Lord, haven't we had doubts? Anybody got a loved one that's erred? A loved one maybe involved in alcohol or drugs, and they just constantly, just so many times go right back to where they were, and you're like, oh, please, Lord, help them, deliver them, and they go right back. After a while, you're like, he ain't never going to change. And here he says, he's feeling these doubts. He's saying, will the Lord cast off forever? Will he be favorable no more? He recognizes he needs God's favor. He says, God's going to cast me, paraphrasing, is God going to just cast me out forever? He said, is his mercy clean gone forever? Does his promise fail forevermore? Now we know the answer to that. If you're a blood-bought Christian, you know the answer to that. God's promises are faithful and sure. He does not cast out his children. He does not fail. But here he's got some doubts. He says in verse 9, hath God forgotten to be gracious? Hath he in his anger shut up his tender mercies? Selah. Selah in the American means, oh boy. Is God, oh boy, has God forgotten to be gracious? Is his anger shut up? Is he not going to show me favor anymore? Is his mercy clean gone? Is his promises going to fail me? He was hurting. He was doubting God. He had a dilemma. And then all of a sudden, I love David. And I said this before, maybe one time, sent a message where I said, you know, if David was alive today, doctors would prescribe him anxiety medicine, for sure, and depression medicine. Because David was bipolar.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, he was. I mean, I love David because he reminds us of so many people. I mean, I've never seen anybody crying and whining so much and then praising and giving God glory so much. Yeah. And God even says, you're after he could touch the throne room of God and fall as far away to the innermost cave. Yeah. I mean, the man was all over the place in the spiritual spectrum. Yeah. But he knew his God. He knew his Redeemer lived. He says over here, in church, I want to encourage you to do what David did. This is the success to help you overcome. This is, you say, well, how do you know that? I'm reading it out of the Bible. This is the success found. He says, I said, this is my infirmity, but I will remember. See, he's remembering some things. Church, we need to remember some things. He said, I'm going to remember the years of thy right hand. I'm going to remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. Amen. I mean, it's so good to look back and say, yeah, I've been in trouble before, but I can look back and remember the years of the goodness of God. Amen. I'm going to remember not only that, he said, I'm going to remember the works. I'm going to remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders. Thy wonders, what wonders? Miracles. Amen. Mary shared a story today in Sunday school class. I really enjoyed that. He did a great job in Sunday school. It was truly awesome. But he shared a story where he was driving, being a deadbeat driver, and he looked up, and an 18-wheeler was coming right at him. Am I telling that right?
Yes.
18-wheeler.
Yes, sir.
He delivered him. And it spared him. Well, I thought to myself, I smiled, and I said, you know, he was right about everybody's had at least a certain amount of times where we could have been killed. I thought to myself, on the way from Asheville to Clemson, back when I was a kid, I scraped up the side of my Trans Am. Because the same thing happened to me on the highway at 70 miles an hour. An 18-wheeler was not only was it in front of me, it was like 3 feet in front of me. Yeah. And I jerked over my wheel as hard as I could, hit the guardrail. Unbeknownst to me, the 18-wheeler that was in front of me was being towed and was around backwards. I dozed off, just briefly. Looked up, 18-wheeler, threw my car off the road, and boom, 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 got it back on, noticed it was being towed. Who's ever seen an 18-wheeler getting towed backwards before? I've never seen that. That was a nice one. I thought, oh, I stopped the car, got out, scraped all the way down the side, and I thought to myself, how am I going to lie out of this? He remembered God's miracles. He said, I remember your wonders. Church, how do we overcome? We can remember the years that God's right hand has been with us. How do we overcome? We can remember God's works in our lives, and the lives of those he loves, and what he's done for us and the miracles that he gives. We can remember not only his miracles, but then he gets to a place where he says, I'll meditate also of thy work. Now, church, here's the key to success for church. He says, I'll meditate also of all thy work and talk of thy doings. Oh, isn't that interesting? He's going to witness. He's going to witness the mode. He says, I'm going to think, not only that, but I'm going to think about your work. I'm going to think about your miracles, and I'm going to talk of all your doings. I'm going to talk. I'm going to witness. How are we going to grow if we're going to grow physically and spiritually? We grow by glorifying and talking about Jesus. Saying, well, look what God can do. Look what He has done. Look what He does in our lives. Amen. He says, thy way, O Lord. Oh, and here's the victory. So not only do we see where he had a dilemma, he has some doubts. Now he has a remembrance. What is he remembering? The years of his work. He's remembering his wonders, remembering his miracles. And then verse 13 says, thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Who is so great a God as our God? Thou art the God that doest wonders, miracles. Thou hast declared thy strength among the people. Thou hast with thine arm redeemed thy people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph, Selah. Amen. Oh boy. You know what he says? Now I'm going to parallel. Understand, this is the keys to victory, and this was his victory. After his dilemma, after his stress, after his doubts, after he remembered, now we see his victory. How? Brought upon right here. He said, thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Now you're going to say, well, what do you mean, thy way is in the sanctuary? I'm so glad to be in the sanctuary of the tabernacle this morning.
Amen. Amen.
Here in the Bible, listen to what the Bible says in Psalms 102, verse 19. He said, he hath looked down from the height of his sanctuary. From heaven did the Lord behold the earth. So he had looked down from the height of his sanctuary. The heaven shall behold the earth. And then here, the victory is in, thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. So God, from the sanctuary of heaven, comes down to the sanctuary of earth and changes lives.
Amen.
Amen.
And what's the point of the change? What's the point of the victory? It answers it right here in verse 15, where he says, thou with thine arm hath redeemed thy people.
Amen.
Let's hear it. Give God a hand. Oh, that's the message. Now understand, from 15 on, there's no more complaining as soon as salvation is brought on and redemption occurs.
Amen.
He couldn't think, oh, wait a minute. Somebody should have remembered him about the time where he was looking back here where he couldn't remember and he was so troubled that he couldn't speak and where he was complaining and considering. He forgot all about that when salvation came on board.
Amen.
And now he just praises God. And what does he start doing? He praises the rest of the chapter. And
Amen.
he says, thy way is in the sea, thy path is in the great waters. Thy footsteps are not known. He's like, God, you're so great. You're doing whatever you're doing. And I don't know what you're doing. But I'm okay with whatever it is you're doing. Because whatever you're doing is awesome.